I'm talking about AI, and you might think that this is a bandwagon that I'm just recently getting on. But in fact, I started in my undergraduate degree in the 70s. I focused on AI, and then my graduate thesis from many, many years ago is in AI as well. So my specialty in computer science has been in AI since the 1970s. So this has been my passion for a very long time. I worked as a full-time paid AI developer starting in 1986. And there's probably not a lot of people that could say that. So this is a space that I've been in a very long time. And I never thought we would get, in my lifetime, to where we are today. I'm going to be making some suggestions about what might happen in the coming future. And a key point is to not refer to the existing state of the AI products. They are, I suggest, accelerating in their capabilities, and so therefore criticizing or concluding what the impact of AI is going to be based upon the current 1.0 tools is really premature. So if you're in a company where some people have been tasked with making predictions about the impact of these tools, oh, they'll make our developers 10% more efficient, missing the point. Way too premature to understand what the impact of these are going to be. But I do believe that by 2027, I think we can get a handle on it. I want to start with a demo, and the context for the demo is, if we look at this list here, these are typical single specialist roles that you often see in software-intensive product development. And an overarching theme is that they're all demonstrating routine expertise. It's not novel expertise. It's expertise that is known, that's repeatable, that's been written down or communicated in some way. And what I want to explore is a couple of examples in a demo about this. So the first thing that I want to do is I meet various organizations who talk about now the new need for data scientists in their organizations, yet another single specialist group. And many of us know that these AIs are becoming useful, for example, for code generation. But what is less well known is their powerful capabilities in other areas, for example, in data science as well. Now, here we see that I've loaded a simple data set into ChatGPT just to get things going. And now I'm going to add another prompt. So you can probably read this. Analyze this data set like an expert data scientist would, and tell me some questions and actions you recommend for analyzing it. This prompt illustrates a key point, that some people think that, oh, if I was already an expert in data science, then I could use the AI to help leverage. Or if I was already an expert in UI design or UX design or database design, then I could use these tools at an expert level. No. What these tools are going to allow us to do is regular, plain old people to be now shifting to high levels of expertise by simply asking questions like this. Hey, AI, acting like a true world-class expert, do the analysis for me. So, for example, let's do that here. I think I'm on a slow Wi-Fi here. So, without getting into the fine details, you can start to appreciate that it's giving an analysis as though we're talking with an expert data scientist. And I'll stop it in just a minute. And I'll stop it there, and now I'm going to put in another prompt. Quite simply, do all of that analysis. Yeah, hello. Refresh. Yeah, it's this room's Wi-Fi. I wonder if someone can give me a hotspot. Let me try one more time. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's try it again. By the way, I won't spend a long time with you with this. I'm just wanting to make it very visual and clear. The capabilities of these AIs are moving into domains that we still currently think of as requiring sort of PhD level expertise, and that's simply not true anymore. So it's given me a bunch of analysis here, and now it's starting to do visualization. Let's see if we can just get one chart, and then I'll kill it. Yeah. Anyways, I'm not here to belabor the point, but just to create a short visualization where you can see what's going on. So I'll pause it at this point. So you see it's trying to make charts, it's making histograms. Because the Wi-Fi is a bit slow, it's not updating very effectively. But the broad point is, wow, it can do things that we normally think of as still even today requiring world-class expertise. Here's another one in areas where people are still not aware that AIs can handle. Let's do this next one. So, evaluate the UI design of the Amazon homepage and make recommendations for improving it. And once again, without getting into the fine details, it's going to go on and on with a lot of really high-quality analysis. And to repeat, the point I'm making is that there are areas of expertise within product development, data science, UI, UX, database design, business analysis, architecture, which still people are thinking, oh, we'll need humans for that because these AIs are not currently working in those domains. But they are currently working in these domains. Let me now give you an example in the domain of business analysis. So I discovered there's something called the Maritime Carbon Intensity Indicator Rating Scheme, some new maritime thing. And so I just said, in terms of business analysis, tell me the requirements for this. Let's try refreshing. Let's try again. And so one might be thinking, well, Craig, with AI, we'll use AI for coding, but at least we'll still need humans for the business analysis. No, probably not. And here we are, we see ChatGPT giving us a rather deep analysis of this particular family of requirements. Again, my point is not to fully belabor this, but just to illustrate it working in a deep level in domains outside what we're familiar with. Let's do this. Create cucumber tests for all these requirements. Let's try again. Something that not everyone is familiar with is that these AIs can generate acceptance tests. You can also point them at existing code and ask it to surround the existing code with tests. So if you hear of managers or developers who say, wow, this automated testing work is too hard and too effortful, well, this is going to change that world. Going a bit farther as a short example. Create Python code to implement and pass these tests. It's like paint drying. I'll give it one more shot. There we go. And then it starts off with the code. I'll stop it there because my main point is that if you're unfamiliar with the power of these tools, you just start to get a hint of how powerful they are. In the interest of moving on, because the Wi-Fi is not working strongly, part of the demo that I'll skip is that I could have asked ChatGPT to generate all the code, then I copy it and I give it to Gemini and I ask it to evaluate the code and refactor it. And then Gemini will refactor the code. And so the implication of this is a dramatic leveraging of our productivity with the use of these tools. So once we have a sense of where these tools are going, I want to now explore some of the implications of this. And broadly, how I think of it is that there's a whole world of routine expertise, and AIs are finally getting to the point where they're able to do knowledge worker routine expertise. And if you look at the history of automation and software development, it kind of follows this path. And now we're focusing on step 4, which is something new in our world. And if you think about these various roles that I recently shared with you, AIs are going to be able to make dramatic impact in all of these areas, and the key point to repeat, not just within the coding space, but everything from the work that product managers do, to business analysts, to testers, to architects, to UI designers, to data scientists. In every one of these domains, AI can dramatically change the work. Moving on, and the point that I want to build on, is that someone might say, well, Craig, AIs won't replace our narrow single specialist routine jobs, says the wishful thinker. They say, I will simply work more efficiently with my single specialty with AI, says the wishful thinker. And I bring this up because I've heard this as a common theme in how AIs are going to be used. Really? I'm not so sure that's going to be the future. That is, I am suspicious that the idea that single specialists will use these AIs to leverage themselves to be more efficient, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to share a few stories and some data points. Some of you know who Goiko is. He's the creator of specification by example, impact mapping, other great ideas, a bright and talented guy. And he's a bit of a serial entrepreneur who's created over his career a series of software products that he's then sold off. And I had a coffee with him last year in Berlin. And he shared with me that in his previous company, which created a software product that he sold off, and I might have the facts a little bit wrong, but I think he said he had something like 5 people working with him to help support the product, customer support, development, that kind of stuff. And now he's on to a new product after that, and he, with the use of AIs, is doing all the work that previously the 5 employees he had previously. So he's able to go from 5 people to 1 person doing sort of the same amount of work. You might have seen headlines like this. 18 minutes. 30 seconds. Minutes to get to 100% test coverage for an entire system. A year or two ago, I did some analysis of different tasks in software development, and I did some estimates of traditional human person days effort, and then I looked at what is sometimes called GLAD development, generative AI, and LLM-assisted development, and some of the approximations of the difference in the effort, and we see over on the right, kind of the rounded ratios of the impact on productivity. 100 times more productive, 10,000 times more productive. This is extraordinary levels of impact. And I want to repeat, the implications that I'm pointing to are not with the current generation of tools, but looking forward a few years into, for example, 2027. And the suggestion I want to make is that AI tools are going to allow us to produce 10 times to 1,000 times faster, not just 20% faster, and with a lot less effort, less errors, and without much prior expertise. Now, digging into this a little bit more, imagine you have a single specialist, a UI designer or a database designer, and that they can now do 300 person days of output doing UI designs or database designs. With these tools, they can do that 300 person days of effort in now 3 person days or 30 person days. This is well conceivable within where these AIs are going. If that's true, then to summarize this, we're talking about 300 person days to, let's say, 30 person days. Now, here's an interesting question. What will that UI or database designer do for the remaining 297 days of the year? what are they going to do for the next 297 days of the year? I know, they'll make more databases. So they used to only be able to make 10 databases a year. Now they can make 10 million. Well, no, because we don't need 10 million databases. Or the UI designer that used to be able to do mock-ups, let's say 10 a year, now they can do 10 million a minute. Well, that's great, because then we'll have millions of UI mock-ups. No, because there's no demand for that. We don't need that degree of overproduction. So what will the database designer do for the remaining 297 days? Perhaps we'll fire all but one database designer or one UI designer, and they'll do all the UI design. I'd like to suggest that's unlikely, because even if there was just one of them, they're still going to have 200 days free or 150 days free. I suggest it's unlikely because other regular plain old developers can use these tools to quickly learn and create the designs that the single specialist was doing. I think it's unlikely because many companies aren't going to want to do massive layoffs. And I think it's unlikely because if that one single specialist did all this, it would create long delays and weak feedback loops. So I'm very suspicious of the idea that we're just going to have less single specialists who are just going to do more efficiently in their single specialty. And I want to double-click on this point. We don't even need a so-called UI expert to do this because a regular plain old developer can learn how to do these things relatively easily with these world-class super expert AIs that are coming. Because AI makes it much easier to learn new skills and tools. That's a key point I want to emphasize here. These tools don't only produce more effectively, they make it easier for us humans to learn new things. So, if the database designer can more easily and quickly themselves learn and then create automated tests, if the database designer can easily learn and do front-end development, and so on, then we no longer think of them as just a database designer, but rather a person with primary, secondary, and tertiary skills, and they're learning even more. So if the database designer does database tasks for 10 days a year, and then learns and does UI design and programming and testing for 290 days of the year, then why do they have the single specialist title called database designer or UI designer or architect? And why is the career path from database designer level 1 to database designer level 2? I'd like to suggest that's not going to make any sense in future organizations. And so that implies that I suggest that we're going to be moving towards more broad and general titles, where the theme is multi-learning and the theme is being multi-skilled, some kind of a generic broad title like product developer. I suggest this is probably the direction that we're heading in. And then, to Woody's point, this was never a team in Scrum or in Agile development. That was just a group of individuals with a mini waterfall. And so I suggest what we're going to be moving to is to this. A team of multi-learning product developers with AI assistants. And then to the point of people like Henrik Nieberg, I can imagine the number of humans in these teams going down over time as AI agents pick up the slack. And this, by the way, is consistent with LESS, an organizational system that we've been promoting for decades, because this is the idea that we've always been suggesting in LESS and now conveniently enabled with AI. And this is not a new idea. It's even older than LESS. Some of you might know this paper. This is the original 1996 Harvard Business Review paper by Takuchi Nonaka. And to go back a little bit farther, this is from research that they did from 1978 to 1982. And then they wrote some papers from 82 to 86, ending in this popularizing paper. So this is a very old idea being reborn and enabled with AI. Moving on. Oh, well, this won't change existing manager roles, says the existing wishful thinker. But if there's no database design group because there's no database designers, then why would we have a database design manager? That doesn't make any sense. So this suggests the reduction over time of managers of single specialist groups as well. Please read this. If you're in a modern company where your HR department is still promoting single specialist titles, if you're in a modern software development organization where your senior managers are talking about having architects and data scientists and UI designers, these people have no understanding of what's coming. And so what are some of these implications, to briefly summarize it? That the future value add for humans is going to be something like this. If you think about the novelty of knowledge work, at one end, on the lower end, it's routine expertise. And as I've tried to share in this talk, that either has been or will be automated by AIs already. And so I suggest that all kinds of single specialist roles will slowly over the years go down and will be supplanted or replaced by AIs. And then this begs the question, well, what's left for humans? What's the human value add? And it's what kind of expertise can humans still bring to the table? And I suggest it's this: learning expertise. Something that is not clear to everybody is that AIs don't learn. I don't know if you know this, when you use ChatGPT, it's an idiot savant. It learns absolutely nothing. How is an AI created today? Well, you get all of the corpus of human knowledge in the world, you go to a data center, you put in $200 million of electricity, and you train the neural network with backpropagation and et cetera for 3 months, and then you come up with a set of weights for the neural network, and that's it. Then it's a frozen, unlearning AI. AIs do not learn. They're completely frozen in their knowledge. And then it's only 6 months later or a year later that you go into the data center again and you have to retrain it to learn yet new information. So the things that AIs are currently bad at is on-the-spot learning and adapting. That's what they can't do well, and that's what humans are really good at. So I think this will be where our human value add is in the short run. Those of you who have a background in AI know that no serious AI computer scientist takes the Turing test seriously. The Turing test has been considered a joke in the AI world for decades and decades. And you might not know this, but what's normally considered kind of the gold standard for testing AIs is from this milestone paper from François Chollet some years ago on the measure of intelligence. And some years ago, Chollet created a set of tests for AIs that really reflect the kinds of human-level knowledge that we have. And interestingly, none of the existing AIs come anywhere close to passing any of Chollet's tests, which implies that from the point of view of learning and adapting, these are still really immature objects. And that gives us humans a chance to focus on adaptive learning. And so to summarize, I think human job skill will be skill in multi-learning and adapting instead of single doing. And then that's going to lead to, I suspect, more teams that look like this. And what organizational system is already designed for this? Oh, that's a surprise. Finally, I want to end on what I think of as a very optimistic note. So, since 1967, I have been closely following fusion technology because it's obvious to anyone following this technology that fusion technology is going to be a dramatic game changer in the world. Once we get fusion technology, to simplify it, we're essentially going to have infinite free green energy. And this is going to change everything. And this is the first time in my life, tracking this since 1967, that I'm willing to say that we're probably within 20 to 40 years of commercial industrial scale nuclear fusion plants. And when that happens, the entire question of energy will be replaced. By the way, climate change will be solved once nuclear fusion comes online, because not only we're going to just have so much energy, it's going to be insane, but in addition, we'll even be able to scrub the atmosphere, which is energy expensive, but nuclear fusion is just going to be extraordinary. I mean, imagine a world, which is coming, in which everybody can basically have as much electricity as they want very cheaply. That's the world we're entering. So our children have a very bright future ahead of them, not at all a bleak future. This is being accelerated with AI. Another example, both from Google DeepMind, AlphaFold. As some of you might know, the key question in drug discovery is how does the protein fold? Because protein behavior is related to the way it folds. And this was a poorly understood and very difficult problem to solve. But now Google DeepMind has created AlphaFold, which can now predict the folding of virtually any protein. And this is going to just revolutionize, dramatically increase drug discovery, and thus leading to greater human health and the reduction of many diseases. And so our children are not only going to have a future with clean energy and a green earth, our children are going to have a future in which many of the current diseases which we're currently faced with are going to be eliminated with the support of AI. And so I see an incredibly bright future for us. To close, I've got a suggestion for name. If we talk about AI developers, that normally means a developer of AI systems. So what do we call a developer that's not a developer of AI systems, but instead is strongly focused on using AI technology to develop? Well, I'd like to suggest the name GLAD developer. Generative AI and LLM assistant developer. Not a SAD developer, that is a sequential, archaic developer. No. I'd like to promote GLAD developers. And that's why I'm a... And you're welcome to link in with me there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you're glad. I got a few questions. I'm going to ask them shortly. As we're slowly going to the beer, I believe. So we're going to go with few questions, and then we're most likely going to enjoy the party. Some of them were answered, but I'm going to ask them anyway, so I don't skip those, so people don't blame me for skipping any of those. To replace programmers with AI, clients will have to accurately describe what they want. We're safe. That's the statement, by the way, not the question, but maybe you can comment on this one.
I think I disagree, because as I tried to show in these demos, which didn't run very well, the AIs will be able to tell us what we want. Like, for example, if our goal is to conform to the next generation of EU financial regulations, I say we're not going to have to tell it exactly what we want. Rather, we're simply going to be able to say to the AI, hey AI, go read the new EU financial regulations, create the automated tests, and create the code for it. That's the direction that we're heading. So even the need for a human to accurately and fully specify things, I think, is going away.
Is it going to tell me what my wife wants?
I could connect that to some prior suggestions, but I won't.
I hope that Dave already found those on, and I'm gonna show this tomorrow during the keynote. Hopefully, if you, Dave, are still here, you see there's a huge market niche for that. I'm gonna go to the next one then. In this case, if most of the jobs are going to be replaced by the AI, what humans will do? And I'm afraid I can know the answer by now, but I'm gonna ask this anyway. Are we going to be just batteries? I've seen those movies already.
I suspect that for the next 20 years, there won't be any meaningful unemployment impact. But I do suspect if we look out, say, like 50 years, we are going to see measurable unemployment impact through the use of AI and robotics. Sad to say, or positive to say, depending upon your point of view. And I think it's likely that worldwide populations are going to start to have to vote for something like universal basic income, or UBI, because there's simply not going to be enough jobs for large numbers of people. And I don't think that's a problem for most of us today, but I think it is a likely future for our children or our grandchildren. And you could say good news, bad news. From the bad news side, there won't be as many jobs for everybody, but people will maybe find meaning in their lives in other ways through athletics, art, exploratory research, and other kinds of mechanisms.
Okay, so this is what they mean when they say there is no retirement plan for our generation. Okay. Oh, that's cool. That's about drugs. How do you plan dealing with hallucination if you plan on offloading everything on Gen AI?
The question, I believe, is about the current weakness of AIs and that they can hallucinate. And fact, OpenAI, for their next 5.0 release, and by the way, Google with Gemini has the same focus, a major focus for the 5.0 release is to stop hallucinating or to dramatically reduce it. So this is really just a temporarily flaw in the AIs rather than a long-term problem. And already organizations are laser focused on significantly reducing this impact. So it's not a long-term concern.
Okay, thank you. How to prepare for this revolution to be safe and the small s, small f, small e, just to make it clear. So that's on the big safe.
Yeah. Well, as you know, there's already discussions about AI safety, and I don't think they're necessary for today's AIs, but we can imagine a future where we're here talking and then suddenly all the lights go off and we go, what happened? And it's the beginning of the end, and that doesn't sound like a good idea. And so I do think in the long run, concepts like air gapping and so forth, once we start to get really powerful AIs, is going to be necessary. And so I encourage all of us as voters and as informed citizens, I do encourage us to be concerned about and care about AI safety in the future, but I think it's an over-concern today.
Okay, thank you. The number of questions is growing, so I'm going to ask a few more, so make sure that I'm not between you and the beer. So let me go with the next one, which is, if we don't need specialists because of AI, what will happen to human IQ in the long run? So basically, are we going to be more stupid because of that?
From my limited understanding of evolutionary psychology, our current IQ average in the world did not come from 1,000 generations of having to be really literate, with science and technology? No. In other words, the worldwide average IQ that we have today did not come from the kind of single specialist learning that people have been doing for the last just 100 years. So it seems to me, looking at it through the lens of evolution, that our cognitive abilities as they are didn't evolve because of how we're currently working, and therefore they're not going to devolve by changes of our work.
Okay, thank you. The last chance to vote, because I'm going to read one more question. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the one on the top is, which prior expertise are the AIs to capitalize on when they replace the people creating the information on which they base their own expertise?
Can you say the question
Yeah, I'm going to
another
say
way?
it once again because I'm confused as well, sorry. Which prior expertise are the AIs to capitalize on when they replace the people creating this information on which they base their own expertise?
I'm sorry, I just can't understand the question.
Okay, and then help from the team.
Yeah.
Next one.
Okay.
Sorry. Oh, we get more votes on this one, by the way. All right, so I'm going to ask the next one. Well, you already most likely answered this one, but I'm going to come back to this one. What about the carbon footprint of AI? Is it really sustainable?
I can first of all connect this to nuclear fusion. I'd like to remind you that we're extremely likely to have nuclear fusion within 20 to 40 years. And so short-term concerns about energy use are really just a short-term concern, and I wouldn't be that worried. Furthermore, as you're probably aware, a number of companies, Microsoft and others, are starting to invest in new nuclear fission plants, which is current nuclear technology, in order to reduce the current impact of the energies of these things. And there's all kinds of scientific research going on in making the training more efficient. So I wouldn't be concerned about this.
All right, so what you're saying, if we don't blow the planet for the next 40 years, it should be safe by then.
Exactly.
Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to close with this question. If you have any more questions, you can catch Craig. You're going to join the party today, or you skip this one? Oh, so you can ask Craig during the party as well. If you enjoy Craig talk, then there's another recording from 2 years back when Craig was talking more about the organization design. So first of all, once again, let's thank Craig Larman.